welcome back to my channel. It has been a short little while. Thank you guys so much for your patience regarding my next upload. I really wanted to get some content out for you guys in the past month or two, and I had actually gone to film, but unfortunately I had issues with my SD card, so I need to go and purchase a new one. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who will ride something out until it breaks. So today you are going to see something a little bit different on your screens, but it's not going to change the message that I want to get across to you guys. So in my last video that I had uploaded, I was talking to you guys about the different ways that you can view this whole global situations and things that you can do to make the situation a little bit better. Now, side note here, I'm going to be using some different code names throughout this video just because we all know that YouTube censors certain things, so I'm sure you're going to catch on. Now, although my last video was about strategies and different things that you can take on to improve the situation, it was not intended to be a holy grail or something that you had to do. And in fact, I'm telling you guys right now that most of that stuff I didn't even do myself, and I actually really struggled over our lockdown period in New Zealand. And I know for a damn fact that a lot of you guys out there have struggled too, because statistics don't actually lie here. I mean, we put so much pressure on ourselves to make the most out of situations, not just during a global P, but in every other aspect of our lives. So today I want to talk about the expectations of what the situation was going to be versus the reality. And these will be based off both my anecdotal experience and statistics as well. I believe this topic is really important to discuss because I can be the first to tell you that not only have I put personal pressure on myself to make the most of this situation, but I've also heard it from other people. Like, yes, we are all going through this strange, unprecedented time, but that does not give you the excuse to sit on your butt. And I'm telling you now that if that's all you did, who cares? You're actually absolutely fine and doing things normally and what would actually be expected from a human being during this situation. So if you are new here, my name is Lex Morningstar, and this YouTube channel is about the INFP personality type and the human condition. And in today's video, we are looking at our well-being during a global shitstorm. If you're a little bit like me and you have the INFP personality type, you are quite likely to put heaps of pressure on yourself to create the biggest impact when it comes to following your purpose, whatever that is. And you know what? That can change drastically week to week, hour to hour. So all of a sudden, this situation that's happened in the world has given you the opportunity to actually take the time to sit with yourself in isolation and to work on the things you want to work on, to change the things that you want to change, to reevaluate your experience on planet Earth. Except it hasn't been like that for many people. We're going to be looking at what we expect or expected for this situation to mean to us versus the reality. So what did you want the lockdown to be? Was it to increase productivity and to complete projects? Was it to reevaluate and reflect upon your life? The changes that you want to make regarding vocation, socially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Was it understanding and retracking your life purpose? Was it actively pursuing new goals, ideals, and values? Perhaps you wanted to make a new side hustle. Was it a chance to appreciate relationships, to improve your marriage or your partnerships, to connect virtually with whānau, friends and family, to strengthen work relationships? Was it to practice acceptance of unprecedented historical global situations by just being, understanding you can only control your immediate affiliations, to appreciate what you have, to actively practice appreciation? Was it to practice self-care, to nurture your body with healthy food, to look after your skin, your hair, to allocate time to relax and take off the pressure to do or to quit unhealthy habits. Those are the things I set out to do when the situation provided a sense of novelty. It was like I wanted to capture the moment and make the most of it because no one knows what's going to happen. But the reality was completely different for me and completely different for most people, statistically speaking. So what lockdown actually ended up being? For many people, they found themselves unproductive, unmotivated, and had a tendency to procrastinate. This had a lot to do with the lack of timekeeping, structure, routine, and anchor points throughout the day. In our quote-unquote older life, we would go about our days with anchor points and routines. You'd get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, have your breakfast, head off to work or school, hang out with your friends at lunchtime, come home, work on your projects. You had different points in the day where you knew what to expect and you knew how much you could get done within that time frame. Whereas within a global situation such as this, you have no sense of time holding you down to particular anchor points in the day. And this can create a false sense of how much time you actually do have. It's putting projects off because tomorrow is exactly the same as today. You have the time. It's the lack of direction and reason for that direction. No one really knows where we're headed to next because times have changed. And it's so normal to be confused as to what to do next. What is that going to achieve for the big picture? And we INFPs are all about the big picture. We INFPs also have a really bad tendency to procrastinate. It is also about the lack of reward and the lack of balance. When we set out to complete a project and we complete that project, usually there is some kind of reward at the end. Whether it's being able to reach out to people and have some positive feedback, whether it's monetary, whether it's some form of social climbing or creating new networks, and also the balance. We have this time to focus on all of our projects, but we don't have the opportunity for balance. Everything that we have ever known has just gone straight out the window and there's nothing to grip onto anymore. The lockdown has been about reevaluation, but reevaluation in a way that you don't know which direction to pursue. As I said, we INFPs base our whole well-being off of our purpose. However, unprecedented times create risk into the unknown. So what you knew before, the purpose that you were actively following, that might not hold any weight anymore. And what does that create? It creates a sense of anxiety because the unknown is the unknown, and the unknown creates an opportunity to be anxious, naturally speaking. And that is an incredibly normal human reaction. And in fact, it's a survival reaction. When we don't know the unknown, it's dangerous to walk into that void. It's been about virtually isolating oneself in social isolation, and relationship issues have surfaced. Virtual social meetings create awkwardness. We have to work harder to process nonverbal cues, and delays make us seem less friendly. Any silence makes us anxious that there is a problem with our technology. We're aware of being watched, which comes with a lot of social pressure. It's also hard not to look at ourselves and we get self-conscious. Aspects of our lives that used to be separate are now all happening in the same place. This makes us more vulnerable to negative feelings. Socialization, especially in larger groups, feels more like an obligation and a performance than a time to relax. Domestic disputes and/or violence have occurred and are occurring. We experience little space from cohabitating individuals, including childcare. And there's significant impacts from physical isolation. We are incredibly social beings. Whether we are introverts or extroverts, we all rely on each other for survival. And during this kind of situation, going from being socially involved in networking, etc., to being trapped in our homes can have significant impacts on our mental health. There is anxiety regarding life after lockdown. lack of job security and job loss, reshuffling of career prospects and study, political shifts, loss of income, assets and investments, economic changes, and social changes. There is an increase of mental, emotional, and physical issues. I personally have experienced a lot of boredom and lack of direction. There has been an increase in substance issues. Now, I can be the first to say I had actually drunk a little bit more alcohol than what I'm used to over this period of lockdown. And that's something I'm not proud of because it makes me not feel very good. An increase of unhealthy habits, such as maybe eating a little bit too much or spending too much time in front of a screen. If you're just like me, you probably had a really bad bout of insomnia, which obviously makes the next day worse and also creates a negative mental health cycle. There is a lack of feeling in control. And in fact, everything feels out of control. And when we go back to the acceptance of what is, that doesn't change the fact that people have lost so much. It is a normal human response. So let's look at the impacts of epidemics, if you know what I mean. As we covered, there is an increase of mental health issues, substance abuse, suicide, and poor view of well-being. A broad study of research links social isolation and loneliness to poor mental health, and recent data shows that significantly higher shares of people who are sheltering in place, 47% of people reported negative mental health effects resulting from worry or stress related to CV, than among those not sheltering in place. Negative mental health effects due to social isolation may be partially pronounced among older adults and households with adolescents, as these groups are already at risk for depression or suicidal ideation. Research shows that job loss is associated with increased depression, anxiety, distress, and low self-esteem, and may lead to higher rates of substance use disorder and suicide. Recent polling data shows that more than half of the people who lost income or employment reported negative mental health impacts from worry or stress over CV. And lower income people reported higher rates of major negative mental health impacts compared to higher income people. Social isolation has association with reduced lifespan and greater risk of both mental and physical illnesses. Additionally, studies of the psychological impacts of quarantine during other disease outbreaks indicate such quarantines can lead to negative mental health outcomes. There is particular concern about suicidal ideation, as isolation is a risk factor for suicide. Now, on top of all of that, there are the social issues and social pressure which follow. When I was struggling a lot during lockdown, I would reach out to groups and create opportunities for conversations, and many people would have this idea that because we're in this global situation, that not being productive was a poor excuse and you're basically weak. However, because of the psychological, physical, and mental impacts of social isolation, I completely disagree with those sentiments. Actually, there are impacts regarding community, ethnic groups and politics, shifts in politics, and also financial impacts and job security. There was a moment there right at the beginning of this situation where my husband thought he was going to lose his job. Now, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for so many people who have lost their investments and jobs and who are now seeking unemployment. I have friends over in Vegas who are really struggling to get their stimulus check from the government, and one of my friends had health issues herself. It was so hard to watch her struggle so much to even simply feed herself, not even knowing where her next paycheck was going to come from. Not only that, but people who live in dire or unfavorable situations, we're in for one hell of a ride, really. So I just want to say that if you really did struggle over lockdown like I did, there is nothing inherently wrong with you. You're doing just fine. You're being a normal human being reacting incredibly normal to this kind of situation. Take the pressure off yourself. Understand that you're in an unprecedented time of history. It's okay to be in survival mode. It's okay to struggle. I was meaning to do heaps of videos over lockdown, but I really struggled. I just kind of thought, what am I going to do a video on? Like, I don't feel inspired by anything. I just feel like trash. One thing I did do, though, that I can really appreciate and that I can look back with fond memories on was my husband James and I jammed a lot. And we were able to actually sit down and play music together, which has been so difficult otherwise because obviously my husband works a full-time job, and by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, we were absolutely knackered. But it's inspired us to continue with our duo idea and to take time in the future to sit down and play together.
You don't love me now. You will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. Never break the chain. Music and me. Music and me. Music. Know how much you weigh. You still have to squeeze into your jeans, but you're perfect to me. And I won't let these little things slip out of my mouth. But if it's true, if I'm not made for you, then why does my heart tell me that I am? Is there any way that I can stay in your?
So I really hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. Maybe you feel just a little bit more understood. Maybe you feel like you're not so bad after all and that you're a normal human being reacting to a weird situation that doesn't always come around all the time. Please let me know in the comment section below how it's been for you, how you've struggled, how you've overcome it. I'd really love to hear from you. But for now, I hope you guys have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you guys are in the world. And I'll see you guys all again for the next video. Bye.